Alright, so this is a video as per request of how I bring these models into Tabletop Simulator using Agisoft. You can see the texture's pretty good, they're pretty smooth, they're pretty low poly, which means that you can spawn a bunch of them and they're not going to kill your computer. I did Typhus recently, he turned out pretty okay for having a ton of detail, but let's show how we get all this going. So I'm just going to close Tabletop Simulator. It's not in the way. So first you want to find like a model, and I've taken a few photo references, but honestly the best way to get some of the more particular models that you can't get tons of photos of is straight from YouTube. A bunch of painters have their stuff up. I don't make any money off this, so it shouldn't really be a big deal. So I do actually use a few pieces of software for this that aren't really particularly free, but I do own my own copies of. That being, we have Photoshop, I have ZBrush, I also use 3D Studio Max, and the Agisoft right now is on a trial. So first off, you want to find something. So someone today told me they needed, I forget the name of this guy, but he's a Yanari character. So you want to find like a good video of that, or your own pictures or screen captures or something. So this guy has like a full 360, which means it's gonna be pretty good. Agisoft works in the way that it grabs all the photos it needs and it will try to create a projection of it. So literally, the more pictures, the better. So an easy way to get this video is, to simply, Google like a YouTube converter video. Just copy the URL, paste it there. Pick like an MP4 format. HT 720 is good. I didn't clip the video, but you could clip the video in here. But I just don't need to. I'll just do it in a different piece of software called After Effects. So just let that download. Great, it's down. So I'm going to start After Effects. Oh, something I should mention is when you're grabbing these models, a really good thing to do is to find a model that has a background that contrasts the actual model, and by that I mean like if you grab this and you do like an alt print screen, and you drop it into like Photoshop, which I was already kind of doing here. So if you, essentially what you're going to get out of this is frames that look like this. And you're going to have to edit those later, but if you use the Magic Wand tool, and I've been finding like a 3x3 or 5x5, you can adjust your tolerance. It really depends on what you're looking at. And you start grabbing the background. It's like that's kind of a little weak. You could type it up a bit. What you're going to end up doing for better results in Agisoft is you want to grab this background. And actually, that might be a bit too weak. And you can use the other selection tools to quickly grab a bunch of junk too. And you can grab like the pieces between his legs here, over here, down along here. Your cropping doesn't have to be perfect, but the better you get it, the better this overall model is going to turn out, and you're not going to have to clean it up as much. Oops, I did a bit too much there. So now if I delete, you'll see that. Usually I don't like doing it on white because white is a bit harder to see. So you can do a fill and just go to like color, and like a green would stand out really well against this guy. So it's a little jagged, but that doesn't really matter because in Agisoft it kind of does the whole texturing for you, and it really just needs to know what all these surfaces are. So before you like download a model, or sorry, before you like grab a video, you're gonna want to like see, can I even grab the background? I had a character earlier that I really couldn't separate the background from the foreground, and that was kind of annoying. So like I was gonna do the great unclean one, and like if I grab him, you can see, it's kind of easy to grab the background, but you're also grabbing a ton of detail in here, and you could totally like adjust these settings up top and try to find out what works. But this is just like a quick overview kind of tutorial. But you don't want it to be too difficult unless you want to spend hours doing this, because this could easily take like 2 to 3 hours. And if you start having to like manually grab these tools to you know crop out the body like this, it is going to take a long time, and it might not be worth your time. You'll see in Agisoft that you can crop stuff out. But enough of that. Let's go back. This is After Effects. It's not too difficult. I don't know if you can get an easy trial for a student or whatever. I have a copy from work, so it works well for me. So I'm just going to drag off screen this video and drop it into the projects. And so it's there. You have to drag it down into this section here, and it creates a composition. And the composition is available up here, or Control K. This is kind of important because we're going to end up changing this frame rate, because you don't really need to export every single frame. If you bring that into Agisoft with like 700 frames, it's gonna hate you. So you get your video here. So I'm just gonna crop out the video of where this guy starts. So I grab him there. As long as you've got like this bar here, you can go up to Edit. You go to Split Layer. Then you just delete the old layer, and then you can scroll along until it looks like that model repeats. So we'll just drag this over. It should snap for you. It's going to get rid of the tail end here. Split that video again, delete it. So he starts with his sword like over here, so you could end it with his sword over there as well. You can overlap frames in Agisoft, but I don't recommend it because sometimes it's wonky, like it doesn't know the extra rotation of the model. It can get kind of weird. So I just deleted that bit out. So you've got this really long composition now. We trimmed everything. So you want to go back into your composition. So it ends like, here-ish. Your time code's right here. This is 23 seconds even. So you go to composition settings. You want to change this from 3 minutes to 23 seconds. And now this bar should fill the screen. If it doesn't, you might be these little handles up here. If you drag them, it's essentially just making this really long. But you can always drag the handles out and expand your timeline. So what do we got here? We got, this model. It kind of sucks that it fades down like this, but that does give a lot of contrast, but hopefully that won't matter. So sometimes I do this trick that I'm going to show next, and it doesn't always work. I'm not a pro at After Effects by any stretch, but as long as you have your layer selected here, you can go Effects, you go to Keying, and you can try these different keys to kill the background. So one that I've used a few times is like, let's say, a color key. Now this isn't a solid background, so this isn't really going to work. But if you grab the little eyedropper, pick color in the background, you can adjust the tolerance. And you can kind of see right there how it's kind of eating that color. And like it didn't grab everything, but you can do that. You can do it again and grab another color key, and then you can grab, say, that color, and you can adjust that tolerance. And so like right there, you could argue like, wow, we kind of just cropped out the whole background. And the good thing about After Effects is it does that the whole way around. Now, obviously, when the background changes here, it kind of comes back, and this might not be the best way to do it, but keep in mind that you could do it. There's a whole bunch of other things here. There's like a Luma key, and it does a whole bunch of other stuff too. You can You can knock out similar colors to adjust these thresholds to find it though. So like you could maybe knock those out, but you'd want to avoid it eating into the model, which this totally is. So we got our model. You've got 23 seconds, and so this video is at roughly 30 frames a second. You know that's gonna be a lot of frames. Um, this is gonna be almost 700 frames, and that's ridiculous. You don't need that much for Agisoft. So what I've been doing is I usually drop this to like 4. So now you've got 4 times 23, so you almost have 100 frames. That might even be too much, but um, you don't want to go too low. This should take it takes my computer like 20 or 30 minutes to do a photo alignment of this much, but since this is like a quick little video, we'll do it at 2 frames. So that this will be like 48 pictures. So you for After Effects to export stuff, usually you go to composition. You're going to add frames to the render queue. You access the settings through these orange buttons here. So we want to go to lossless because this is the export format. You're going to go down to, I usually use PNG sequence. We have no alpha, so it doesn't matter. Alpha just means transparency. You don't have to touch anything else. You don't have to touch best settings. You're going to do your output. I have some Agisoft projects, so I'm just going to make a new one. I'm just going to call it Sunari. I don't actually remember what the character's name is. You can leave this whole thing if you want, but I'm just going to shave it down. So now you just hit render, and you watch it go. Shouldn't take too long, but I got a pretty decent computer. So we can close that now. We can close that. So if I go into my Agisoft projects, you've got the Inari right here. It's got 45 pictures. I'm just going to copy the file path. You can go into Photoshop. If you go to File, Scripts, and then you go to Load Files into Stack. Just click Browse. This is the drag I was doing. It didn't work out so well. Background was too wonky. Copy them all. Or sorry, grab them all. Take a second. You're gonna hit OK, and Photoshop's just gonna load them all for you. That way you don't have to like painfully pull them all one by one. So I'm just going to do like a few, and then I'll probably cut the video, and I'll do the rest of them because it's going to be a little painful because sometimes this stuff takes like an hour, depending. So you get a whole bunch of photos, so I turn basically almost all of them off. And then I make a background. Then I fill that background with a really obvious color. Color that's probably gonna hurt your eyes, but it's really gonna let you know when something's cropped correctly. Okay, you won't see it because this layer's turned on. I kind of presume that you guys know a little bit about Photoshop, but if not, maybe I'll do a bigger tutorial on that. Okay, so I'm using the Magic Wand tool. It's usually the default tool, but in case it's not, it might be this quick selection tool, and you just click it, do the drop down. By default, it probably is set on point sample, probably has a really low tolerance. Some of these settings may or may not be on. You can kind of play around with them. I kind of try to put it pretty high at first, so a tolerance of 30 will be like, it's going to grab a lot of stuff. And actually, that's actually pretty good. So if you keep clicking in the same area, it'll actually keep trying to sample, and then if you click new areas, it'll try to grab that color too. So you can keep clicking all these dots, or you could like grab this other tool here, the quick select tool, quick selection, and just you can start cropping stuff out. It's not too important that you crop out the this whole base area at the bottom. It's more important that you crop out areas of the model. And like these gaps here, it can be kind of nice to do that. You could zoom in here and grab like all these little things. The space between these back thingies he's got going on here. It really depends how much detail you want to put into it, but we are trying to go for some pretty awesome looking models here. So then you just delete the background, and he's cropped pretty good. You can see it. You can see a little bit of lines here, but if you hit E, it just opens your eraser, and you could just literally erase that. Eraser's right there, though, in case you know. And then you pretty much move on to the next one. You could experiment with upping this tolerance. Like maybe this would be faster if we had a stronger tolerance, and it's looking like that's totally the case. You just got to be careful that it doesn't start grabbing things that you don't want. Like we kind of grabbed his fingers there. You could grab this tool here called the lasso tool. I use the polygonal one because you can click, just form shapes. That was actually on the wrong mode though. You have a bunch of different modes. One adds, one subtracts, and so on and so forth. So this, because we use such a bigger selection there. Oh, I did it again. It's going to grab more stuff that you don't want it to grab, and that will end up eating up your result in the end. Like look, all of these things here got taken, and I mean, you don't really want to do this. You don't want to keep going back in and recropping and grabbing the stuff. It's going to suck. You're not going to want to do it. I mean, I don't want to do it. So you can see here, like I missed a few things, but you just erase it. Grab these things on the side, erase that too. Boom. And I'll just do one more, and then I'll pause it. So 45 is a bit too high. Maybe want to do like 35. Keep in mind that I still have point sample on. I could actually jump up to a 3x3 average, and what that means is it tries to sample the surrounding area. So like let's try that. Let's do a 3x3, and you'll see it grabs way more. Hopefully it's not eating into the model too much. It doesn't appear to be. And we can just quick grab all this junk on the sides. It's not too important that you preserve the base, because honestly this base isn't so great and kind of ups the poly count when you're actually in the tool. So we'll delete that. Boom. And I'll be right back.